Welcome, welcome, welcome to Amud Yomi Shiur. Makkos, Maseches Makkos Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis. We're in the Mishnah, but before we start the Mishnah, we have a little debt to pay from yesterday. And before we start the Shiur, we will mention that the Shiur is for the Hatzloch and Hatzolo of all of Klal Yisrael, all the Jews that can't make it home, all the Jews who are captives in Gaza, Lo Aleinu, and the Misken, the Moihel. You know, there's the Moihel who's been arrested in Ireland, the Shem Shmo, for you don't know about that? All the English people talk about it. There's an English Moihel, and he's stuck in Ireland. In a Moihel, Mem Vav Hey Lamed, Mem Vav Hey Lamed. Yeah. So they jailed him for doing bris milah. Shem Shmo. Anyway, so we should all daven for everybody. L'rafos Pnina Chai Bas Gil Rochel, Esther Foran Bas Shoshana Malka, Latzlochas all of Klal Yisrael. Yeah, Beseda, Esther Tamar Bas Yifas Naomi. Latzlocha. Zog Deil. No, before the Mishnah, we said yesterday that Yehuda, meaning Yehuda, the son of Yaakov. Yeah. Eldad, Rafos Eldad ben Yifas Naomi. Yeah. Okay, so basically, yesterday we spoke about Yehuda that was Menada himself. Yehuda, right, made a self-imposed nidui. Lofus Mordechai ben Tova, Dobrish. We said yesterday Yehuda basically made a self-imposed nidui. He told his father Yaakov, if I don't bring back the boy Binyamin, then I'll be nidui my entire life. And then we ask the question, we haven't seen Yehuda was a nidui throughout his life. All of a sudden, after his death, Moshe Rabbeinu starts pleading to Hashem on behalf of Yehuda. Something very strange. Explains the Maharshal. The Maharshal, that's the go-to first address you go to when you don't know what's going on in a Gadita. Says the Maharshal, this I remember from other sources, Yehuda says, Kol Hayomim, I will be a sinner, Chotasi Lechot, Kol all the days. Whenever it says Kol Hayomim, there's a red herring here. He's basically saying, I will have nidu in Olam Hazeh and Olam Habo. Wow. Yehuda himself made a double nidu, double barrel nidu upon himself, Olam Hazeh and Olam Habo. So now, in Olam Hazeh, says the Maharsha, why was he walking around free and everything seems to be so good and nice and hunky-dory? That's because his brothers were matir than nidui. They had the power to do that, like Beis Din. They were good enough as Beis Din to sell Yosef, right? So they were Beis Din to be matir his nidui. After the death, nobody can matir the nidui. When it comes to Beis Din Shel Mala, human beings can't help you. Only Hashem. Yeah, there's no dayonim down here to be matir your nidui up there, right? Therefore, the one who can only plead to Hashem to be matir the nidui, because Olam Habo, the upper world, they're only under the power of Kadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, Moshe had to beg a Kadosh Baruch Hu, this nice and slow, actually painful and slow process. This should happen, and then he should be accepted to yeshiva, and then he should know how to learn, and then he should be able to answer the questions. Lahavdil, a keboy in yeshiva, you need every step of the way to follow him, lahavdil. So too, Moshe had to beg a Kadosh Baruch Hu to slowly and surely, undo the nidu of Yehuda of Olam Haba. Because who else can do that? In this world, we don't have the yonim that can affect Olam Haba as much, and therefore only Kadosh Baruch Hu could have done it. There are things that people here can work in Olam Yonim. I don't know about these things, but in nidu apparently it doesn't work. That's a Moshe Rabbeinu himself had to daven to Hashem, that Hashem himself would be matir that Olam Haba kind of nidu. Baruch Hashem for the Maharsha. Zok the Mishnah. We all know, as we mentioned yesterday, and as we all know from the Chumash, that the Rotzeach B'Shogeg, when does he get to leave the Ir Miklat? Upon the death of the Kohen Gadol. Okay, we said about the different Kohen Gadolim, right? There's the Kohen Gadol with the Begodim and the Mishcha. In Bais Sheni, the Kohanim Gadolim only had the Begodim. They did not have Shem and the Mishcha over here. There was no Shem and the Mishcha. And then you have the Kohen Gadol, which was a substitute Kohen Gadol, and now he's just, he has his glorious past, but it doesn't go to be a Kohen Hedit. He's also called Kohen Gadol. If he dies, that's another reason for the Rotzech B'Shegeg to go out. And there was an opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that said even the Kohen Mashuach Milchama, the Kohen who is like the chaplain, the one who gives them the motivational talk before they go to war, and he tells them who should go home, who shouldn't, those things, that Kohen, according to Rabbi Yehuda, also, if he dies, he's also liberating the Otzech B'Shogeg. Okay, Zog the Mishnah. The question before we continue is, before we speak about the Kohen Gadol, yeah, when, in other words, which Kohen Gadol should die in order for the Rotzech B'Shogeg to go out. When I say which, I don't mean what kind of Kohen Gadol. I mean chronologically speaking. Let's say the murder took place in Chas v'Shalom by mistake. Okay, Aleph Nisan. Okay, there was a Kohen Gadol in Aleph Nisan. His name was Avram. Okay, now in Yud Nisan there was a whole trial. In Yud Nisan, 10 days later, they decided that this guy, that Rotzech B'Shogeg, is Rotzech B'Shogeg. They judged him and he was sentenced and was defined as Rotzech B'Shogeg. But you know what? In between, the Kohen Gadol, the first one of Rome, died, and there's another Kohen Gadol called Baruch. So which Kohen Gadol is the one that's detrimental, right? Or maybe Avram, he didn't die. Avram was disqualified from Kohen Gadol. He got sick. He got toma. He decided to become I don't know, kite flyer, whatever. I don't know. Something happened to Avram. He didn't yet die. Avram is the Kohen Gadol when the murder took place, and Baruch became the Kohen Gadol when the sentence took place. Get it? The verdict. Which one's which? Which one is the one who's upon his death, he goes out of the Ir Miklat. Every day of learning is a huge schus. Mishenigmar dinoi, meis kohen gadol, harezeinu goyle. Oh, once nigmar dinoi, now comes the Gemara with the Mishnah says something else. Mishenigmar dinoi, meis kohen gadol doesn't get golus, which means, let's say, right? The Kohen Gadol, Baruch the Kohen Gadol, was alive when the Gemar Din took place. Okay. And then before he got to Golus, he was sentenced to go to your Miklat. He starts running, sports shoes, or maybe he takes a hike, whatever, drives his Ferrari. He's about to go to your Miklat, or maybe he's escorted with Talmid Chachomim. He goes to your Miklat, and all of a sudden he reads the news that the Kohen Gadol died. Before he even made it to your Miklat, Ein Goyle, stop running, can start panting. You don't have to go to your miklat. If the Kohen Gadol died after the sentence, but the verdict, and before he made it to your miklat, he doesn't have to go to your miklat. Yeah, the Kohen Gadol died before the your miklat ever took place. He doesn't have to go to your miklat. And what can the Goel Adam do to him? Nothing. Goel Adam, please lower your Uzi. Mr. Rotzech B'Shogeg, stop running. All is good. The Kohen Gadol is dead, and therefore the entire Golus doesn't even have to start to even begin. Okay? That's a Kal V'chomer. We'll see it in the Gemara. Continues the Mishnah, the second case. That's the case I told you about before. Im ad shelo nigmar dinoi, meis Kohen Gadol, before the Gemar Din, he murdered in Aleph Nisan, right? And then the Kohen Gadol died before the Gemar Din, in the middle of the judicial process, before the final boom verdict. And then there was another Kohen Gadol, Mr. Baruch B. He's the one who was officiating during the Gemar Din. Then the Gemar Din happened after Baruch came to the throne of being a Kohen Gadol. The second Kohen Gadol, which means the Kohen Gadol which officiated while the Gemar Din took place, he is the one. The focus alignment are on him. And if he died, the second guy, meaning the Kohen Gadol who was there at the time of Gemar Din, that's the Kohen Gadol that has to die in order to liberate the Rotzech B'Shogeg. The first Kohen, even if he's still alive, just not a Kohen Gadol, doesn't make a difference. Even though he was the one that was there at the time of the Retzicha itself. Interesting. We're going to see in the Gemara why. Gemar Din is the detrimental. That's exactly the detrimental point. Yeah, the pivotal point. The important link in the chain is the Gemar Din. Yes. Continues now the Mishnah, another case. Nigmar Dina b'lo Kohen Gadol. In Yud Nisan, there was no Kohen Gadol. Ooh, big news all over the world. Mr. Avram is out of touch, is out of, I don't know, his tumah, I don't know what happened to him, went off the derech. It also happened, Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol. And the second Kohen Gadol, they didn't find one yet. Yeah, they have to decide in the coalition. I'm joking. Yeah, they didn't yet find another Kohen Gadol. So at the time of Gemar Din, there was no Kohen Gadol in the world. There was no Kohen Gadol on that day when the Gemar Din, when the verdict was made. Boom, gavel down. You are a Rotzech B'Shogeg. You better run to your miklat. Then, if there was no Kohen Gadol there, they were between Kohanim Gedolim. You know what happens then? Oh, we'll see soon. Now, a second case. The Hoyer Kohen Gadol, the one who killed the Kohen Gadol. He killed the Kohen Gadol himself, right? The Kohen Gadol shehorag. Third case, a Kohen Gadol himself killed b'shoigeg. Yeah, a guy got to Beis Hamikdash, right? And somehow, boom. Yeah, somehow I don't know. There's a fist in the face of the Kohen Gadol by mistake, or Kohen Gadol that killed others. The Kohen Gadol in the Beis Hamikdash killed someone else. These three cases, any of these three never leave Ir Miklat, which means, let's repeat, if there was no Kohen Gadol at the time of the verdict, you don't have your pet Kohen Gadol, sorry to say, in the time of the verdict, that upon his death you go free, because there was no Kohen Gadol. So who should die in order to free you? Nobody. We don't care about the Kohen Gadol at the time of the Retzicha. We care about the Kohen Gadol at the time of Mishpat, of the Gmar Din. There was no Kohen Gadol. And the other cases are also around the same idea. Yeah, the Achronim explain. The one who killed the Kohen Gadol, there's no Kohen Gadol, right? There is no Kohen Gadol because you killed him. So he's just not there, right? I don't know what would happen if they nominated the new Kohen Gadol, appointed Kohen Gadol at the time of the Mishpat, but apparently that's not good enough. You have to have also Kohen Gadol at the time of the Retzicha. And there was no Kohen Gadol then, you killed him, then you don't go free. The Kohen Gadol Shehorag, you are the Kohen Gadol, you killed, so you know when you're going to go free? When the Kohen Gadol will die, but it's you. You are the Kohen Gadol. You're one and the same. The Kohen Gadol and Rotzech are one person. So yes, when the Kohen Gadol will die, you'll go out, meaning when you will die, because you're the Kohen Gadol, right? That's basically the idea. Now, that's a life sentence. Then he stays in the Ir Miklat for life. Okay, there's nice food there. There's a lot of from people around. He's going to sit in koilel the whole life. Very nice. Yeah, but he can't go out. There's a chasana. Now we're going to see how severe it is not to go out of the Ir Miklat at all. Very good. You're mechaven to the question of the Achronim here. I don't remember who. Very nice. Why? If he killed the Kohen Gadol, why can't he go out with the other Kohen Gadol's death? Let's say the Meshuach Milchom according to Rabbi Yehuda. The Achronim say there's the major Kohen Gadol. In other words, even if you go out by the death of the Kohen Gadol, let's say number 2, the substitute, or the one of the Milchama, that's providing that there was a Kohen Gadol in the world, the major one. But the major one has to be there. If he killed the major Kohen Gadol, the real deal, the one with the Bgodim, who is in Beis Hamikdash, not a war, with the Zach, with everything, yeah, he has to be around. Yeah, at the time of the Retzicha, and he has to be alive at the time of and mainly at the time of the Mishpat. So the other ones cannot make up for his death. Very good point. Very, very good point. Beautiful. Continues the Mishnah. What does life sentence mean? Let's say he saw, right, an important thing of Eidus, right? Let's say Kiddush HaChodesh. He is, we all learned Rosh Hashanah, right? He saw the new moon. He says, oh, finally I can get out of this stifling place. I'm going to get a nice trip to Yerushalayim to give Eidus in the basin of Yerushalayim. The answer is, uh-oh. Well, you can go, but there's a guy waiting outside with a big gun. He's not allowed to go out to Eidus Mitzvah. Velo Eidus Momoin. Let's say he knows that somebody owes money to someone, and the basin is in Netanya, and he's stuck in Shechem. He can't go out to testify for someone else's money matters. Yeah? Velo Eidus Nefoshois. Well, okay? Lav dafka, maybe to help you eat is more important than the chodesh. I don't know. You want to be Hasidish. Let's say he knows Eidus regarding the fashos. He saw someone killing. He saw someone smoking on Shabbos. He saw someone this or to dafka to be mazim. No, you can't go out at all. In other words, that life sentence is there for good. Even if the entire Jewish nation needs his Eidus or needs his services, he doesn't get out of Ir Miklat. It's a very severe thing. Yoav ben Tzeruya, yeah, in his good times, he was the Sar Tzava. He was, how do you call it in English, the Ramatkal, Lieutenant General, the head of the army, whatever it's called, yeah? He was the head of the army of David HaMelech. Even if that, Rotzech B'Shegeg he was a Ramatkal. He was the main guy. Everybody needs him for war. He never goes out of that town of the Ir Miklat. Shene'emar, it says, Asher Nas Shomo. Shomo, there. What does there mean? Shamte dirosoi, shamte misosoi, shamte kvurosoi. This is where we're going to live. This is where he's going to die. And this, as we'll see in the Gemara, he will be buried. The basic kvoros of the Ir Miklat is where he's buried. Even his bones, at least at the beginning, his bones upon death, you bury him, his body, in the cemetery, in the Ir Miklat. and you don't take him, that's a punishment. Because people, especially in the times of the Gemara, they had a chuzas kever, like Avram, right? The Marasam Chpel, or like we have the sugya in Bava Basra, Daf Kuf, yeah, all the family would be buried together. Today, a lot of people also, couples want to be buried together. Maybe they know manage lifetime, they're buried one next to the other, don't fight anymore. That's a good solution. They watch the view together. Alamaisa, people want to be buried with the family. That guy of the Ir Miklat, Rotzech B'Shogeg, no, he stays even after his death by the Ir Miklat, his body in the cemetery. And there is a solution, but at least at the first part, the first stage, he stays there and he's not being buried with the achuza of his family. Continues the Mishnah, Kishem Shei, first wide line, Kishem Shei koletis kach tchum hakoilet. Oh, just like the city itself absorbs the Rotzech B'Shoigeg, meaning that's a safe haven for him, safe haven from the Rotzech from the Goel Adam, so to the tchum of the city is koilet. Tchum can be all kinds of, shiurim. Let's now just guess. Let's assume it's the famous 2,000 ames. Let's assume for now, okay? So 2,000 ames, okay, about 2 kilometers out of town, the outskirts, the orbit around town. That is something. That's also an area which already absorbs the Totzach B'Shogeg. We know the tchum of the city is like the city. Continues now. Oh, everyone was asking before, and here comes your answer. Everyone was asking, who's the Goel Adam? Does that to be a close relative? How do you have Goel Adam with the father and son, which one killed the other? Can anybody be Goel Adam? Ooh, here begins the answer. And you all know it's a Mishnah, so we don't know yet the real deal. We're just getting the taste from the Mishnah. רוצח שיוצא חוץ לתחום ומצא גואל אדם. Upa. A רוצח wants to be smart and he wants to go out to, breathe some fresh air. And you know who found him? A nice guy, Goel Adam. Oh, that's so nice to meet you. Right? Yeah, I have a gun. I was waiting for you to come, so nice to see you around. Yeah, says the Goel Adam to the רוצח B'Shoigeg. So now, listen to this. Rabbi Yosef says, Glili Omer mitzvah biad Goel Adam. That's what I told you many times. According to Rabbi Yosef Glili, it's not, we're not playing here, cowboys and Indians, it's not a game. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah and a Goel Adam to kill him. Why? Because we want him to stay in Ir Miklat. This is we're going to discussion later, Kapara, Oynesh. He's meant to be in Ir Miklat. It's a kind of jail. He gets out of jail. Then, Adrabah, it's a mitzvah b'Goel Adam to kill him. It's a good thing to do. Yeah, he's a half murderer, so to speak, b'shoigen. He deserves jail/death. It's a mitzvah. However, what about other people? Reshus be'ad kol adam. Wow. Says Rabbi Yossi Glili, it's a reshus if other people want to kill him, not Goel Adam. They're not related. Okay, they're strangers. A ger, Avraham McKenzie. All right, he's not related to anybody. He didn't get married yet, even yet. So then, what? Other people have the permission to kill him. They're allowed to. They're not allowed to kill him. So now we see Goel Adam is a very, very vast kind of idea. Okay, wow. Now that's Rabbi Yosef Glili. Rabbi Akiva Omer. Rabbi Akiva says no. Rabbi Akiva takes it one step lower, so to speak, one level lower. Reshus be'ad Goel Adam. Says Rabbi Akiva, no. The Goel Adam is allowed to kill him. It's not a mitzvah, right? It's not, right? Okay, it's not a mitzvah. It's a reshus. The Goel Adam is allowed to kill him. He can go to anger management workshop, but if he didn't, he's allowed to kill the murderer. V'chol adam chayovin olav. Other people chayovin olav. According to the version of the Gemara, other people are not related to him, not closely related. However related that is, I don't know, but they're not defined as Goel Adam. Let's say that ger, not related to anybody, just became a ger from the Philippines. Just an example. We'll just give an example, and he killed him. He's chayv misa. In other words, other people are not allowed to kill him. If they did, they're chayv misa. They're murderers. None of your business. You're not Goel Adam. Goel Adam has permission. Who are you to kill him? You're none of your business, and you are chayv olav. However, the Goy Mevilna, you see there's a little aleph here. So look at the Goy Sagro. Yeah, go down. There are a few Goys. The Shas, the Goy Sabach. Under that is the Goy Sagra. The Girsa yes v'chol adam ein chayovin olav. The Goyen has a version that other people, not related, not Goel Adam, they are not chayev. They don't have permission, but as we mentioned before, they are not chayev b'diavad. In other words, it's also potter of also. Yeah, it's like over the Rabbanon on Shabbos. You're not supposed to do it, but if you did it, there's no chorus, there's no chiyuv. That's the gears of the Goin. We may discuss this later. As you know, it's a Mishnah. We only get the first information here. Hopefully, we'll get a clear picture in the Gemara. Any important questions now? I mean, realizing this is only a Mishnah. Yes, I'm open for questions now, as long as it's a question to the point. Yeah, I'm listening.
First part of the Mishnah where
Yeah.
where it's on to the city of refuge where
It says, Dok the Heilige Gemara, my time. Why is that? Meaning, why do you say what we just said now? Why is that so that if the Kohen Gadol was alive, why is it so that if the Kohen Gadol died after the sentence, yeah, after the verdict, before he made it to a miklat, he doesn't have to go to a miklat? Why is that so? Why shouldn't he go to a miklat? Let him, get the punishment, get the kapara, whatever that is. Amar Abaye, says Abaye, kal v'chomer. It's a simple kal v'chomer. Uma mishgolo kvar yetze. If the one that already is in Golus is in your miklat for 5, 10, 15 years, he's already in your miklat, and the Kohen Gadol gets him out of the rut, gets him out of the situation. So the death of the Kohen Gadol is so strong, so potent to get him out of, so to speak, jail. So the one who never even made it to your miklat, of course, the Kohen Gadol's death is strong enough to avoid going to your miklat. If it's strong enough to change him from the chazaka, get him out of there, Paul Sheken, that the death of the Kohen Gadol is strong enough to not begin to avoid the whole situation from happening, that he should not even go to Golus. That's Kal V'chomer, Azoy Zog the Heilige Abaye. Frag the Gemara, no, I could see the other way around, says the Gemara. The Dilma, maybe not. Hai de Golo, ich parley. Hai de lo Golo, yeah, yeah, hai de lo Golo, loi, which means that's not necessarily true. Why? The one who got Golus, as I told you many, many times, the idea of the Rotzech B'Shegid, he should make it to Ir Miklat. Ir Miklat is what he's supposed to get as a kapara. And therefore, says the Gemara, no. Maybe the one who got a bit of the kapara, he was there for 1, 2, 3 days, a year, 50 years, he was there for a while, then the Kohen Gadol gets him out to say, he got the kapara, now the Kohen Gadol's death can get him out. But the one who never made it to your miklat, that's not fair. He's supposed to make it to your miklat, to have the taste of your miklat as kapara. And if he didn't, let him go to your miklat. And what will happen then? He'll stay there forever. Yeah, there is no death for the Kohen Gadol anymore. Zog the Gemara, no. The Gemara is saying something very interesting. Answers the Gemara, like, mi di golus ka mechapra, mi says koinu de mechapra. Very, very interesting. Says the Gemara, what? You think that the golus to your miklat is what gives him kapara? The death of the Kohen Gadol is his kapara. Wow. And therefore, I don't care if he made it to your miklat and stayed there for 50 years, for 5 minutes, or if he didn't make it to your miklat at all. As long as the Kohen Gadol is dead, once he dies, that's a kapara. Okay, fine. Frakta says what? It's mefurash. We said at the beginning of the Masechta, remember Eidim Zomimim many moons ago, it says mefurash. Tevilu kapara. The Gemara mentions before that Golus is kapara. Answers Tosfos like this. Let's read it inside the beautiful words of Tosfos. And look at the wide lines at the end of Tosfos. Pirush, Mifta Megosha, Afilu at the end of the first line, the first wide line of Tosfos, the very bottom of the page. Afilu loy gola loyom echad v'meisa kohen gadol hu choizer, right? Let's say the person, was in Ir Miklat 1 day, and then the Kohen Gadol dies, he goes back. 1 day in your miklat, wow, 1 day, and then big news on the screen, in the newspapers, in Amudia, Mevaser, Yatev Ne'eman, Kohen Gadol died, 1 day, going back home, and the Gadol Adam can't do anything. Ve'ilu lo me'esa Kohen, let's say the Kohen Gadol did not die, the Kohen Gadol, Kenan Hora, bis 120, afilu shel sham zman meruba inu yoytze. We see that the guy can be there for the next 67 and a half years. The Kohen Gadol seems to be immortal, and he stays there the whole time. So what do you see? You see that even though, of course, there's an element of kapara in being stuck in your miklat, that's true. But you see that the amount of time staying in your miklat is Ki'ilu, very logical. It's only determined by the longevity of the Kohen Gadol. You can be there either 1 day or 50 years. Imagine if there was a secular legislator here, a lawyer, a judge. You would think that's crazy. in Eine Bnei Odom. Yeah, you give people, hopefully reasonable sentences. I'm just throwing numbers. Yeah, a murderer would get 10, 15 years. A thief would get, I don't know, 2 years. A violent person, 5 years, or whatever. I'm just throwing numbers. Yeah. So then what? Center. Makes sense. This does make sense. In other words, if the ghost alone is the kapara, if being in your miklat is kapara, the Torah should have decided he should stay in your miklat for 7.5 years and 2 days, right? The Torah can be very clear with numbers, right? By Vedivri, by all that, right? The fact that the Torah is so volatile when it comes to the amount of time near Miklat, that shows you that the greater factor, of course, it's a kapar to be near Miklat, but the greater factor, even more than near Miklat itself, is the death of the Kohen Gadol. You see, the Kohen Gadol can make either super life sentence, like 5 life sentences, or 1 day, right? So you see that it's more detrimental. Therefore, we see that out of the two kaparas, this is a new way to phrase it, the death of the Kohen Gadol is more detrimental, is more effective, and therefore, if the Kohen Gadol died before he made the Tir Miklat, the death of the Kohen Gadol wins over and avoids your Miklat from getting into the picture. And if the Kohen Gadol died before he made it to a Miklat, then the Kohen Gadol and then the guy goes free. And Mr. Goladam, you asked the question. I belittled your question. I apologize if I was mechabed you. You're asking a good question, but it's a technical question. How do they know that Kohen Gadol died? I hear Beseder, it took time for the news to travel. I don't know. Okay, I'm sure maybe there's discussion somewhere, maybe the Gemara later on. I don't know. Aber let's say the no. Okay, let's say the no. It happened. And Echanami, otherwise it's a suffix. You're asking a good question. How can it? I'll tell you one thing halachically. There is a sugya in Sukkah and in other places, which is not technical, it's halachic, and it's in Yuma also, beginning of Yuma, and it's also in the second parak of Sukkah. Chashin al lamisa or lo chashin al lamisa. If somebody is alive, you haven't heard from him. Okay, today I hear from people all the time. He didn't WhatsApp you, emailed you for a month or 2 or 3. Maybe he's enjoying his life. Maybe he died. I don't know. So there's the sugya, choshesh al lamisa or not choshesh al lamisa. Do you assume people who live will keep living, or do you assume that a person may die? Maybe that sugya has to do with the sugya over here too, because you're asking a good question. Let's say I'm a goyal adam and I have the gun already ready, finger on the, how do you call it, on the get, on the trigger. Thank you. Yeah, even in Hebrew, say trigger. Yeah, you have your hand on the trigger and you say, I'm going to kill the guy. Maybe the Kohen Gadol died. It's a good question. How can you kill the guy? Maybe the Kohen Gadol is dead. As far as I know, ain't choshesh lemisa. If last time you heard the Kohen Gadol was alive, you can assume he's still alive. That's what I think. Kach nearly, but I may be wrong. So the Goyal Adam can pull the trigger because if somebody was alive, as far as I remember, the halacha is we assume that he stays alive. Only in Yom Kippur we have an extra chumrah with the wife of the Kohen Gadol. That's a bit of a taste of that inyan, and I respect your question. Okay, question time. Yeah, got it, the 2 dots. Yeah, we can ask questions. Then I can also have my tea, and we'll be back soon. Yes, commercial time. Soon. Let's go. So what did we say? Which Kohen Gadol is the one, the detrimental one for the liberty of the Rotzeach B'Shgoga? The one who was alive and serving and officiating at the time of Gemal Din, not at the time of the murder. Frag the Gemara minanimili. How do you know? Omar Rav Kahana, says Rav Kahana. The Omar Kro, the Pasuk says, V'yoshav bo ad Moisa Kohen Gadol. So far, so good. He, the Rotzeach, should sit there until the Kohen Gadol dies. You know which Kohen Gadol? Asher Moshach Oisai B'Shem HaKodesh. That he anointed him with the holy oil. Who anointed him? The Chihu Moishchai. You're telling me that the Rotzech B'Shegeg, he anointed the Kohen Gadol? That doesn't work like that. Yeah, what does it mean? Ela Zeh Shenim Shach B'Yomov, which means, Moishchai means the one that was anointed at the time of the Rotzech B'Shegeg, meaning, this is good hashkofa here, at the time that he was Rotzech B'Shegeg. What does it mean? Aleph Nisan, it actually happened. But only in Yud Nisan, after the verdict was over, he was defined, classified, and sentenced as a Rotzech B'Shogeg. So when did he really become Rotzech B'Shogeg? Not when it happened, when it was decided. Because until Beis Din decided and made him a Rotzech B'Shogeg, he's not really Rotzech B'Shogeg. Akash Baruch Hu gave the Torah to Bnei Adam. Once we decided he's Rotzach B'Shogeg, only then it happened. So simple. If you say the Kohen Gadol, which was anointed in his days, meaning in the time when he was Rotzach, it means the time was decided to be Rotzach B'Shogeg. But now the question comes, my Havel Mebad. What did you want him to do? Wait a second. Baruch reminded us very, very nicely that we are kind of blaming the Kohen Gadol because you should have davened that the murder shouldn't have happened. But hey, that's not fair. My name is Baruch the Kohen Gadol. I'm a new kid on the job. You know, I just became a Kohen Gadol in Tes Nisan. Now it's Yud Nisan is sentenced. You know when the murder happened? Before I was a Kohen Gadol, right? Aaron, Avram was the Kohen Gadol when it happened. The one from my life, right? The blame is on the Kohen Gadol who didn't daven for the murder not to happen. I wasn't Kohen Gadol then. I became Kohen Gadol when the sentence took place. So they want from me. Answers the Gemara. Wow. He should have davened to Hashem that a Kohen Gadol should be aware of the problems of the tzibur, like all of Gdol Ador. The Gdol Ador, I've heard from more than one person, they complain, they know about everybody's sorrows, but not about the simchas, all right? So basically, the Kohen Gadol that was officiating while the verdict was taking place should have davened that he, the Rotzech B'Shegeg, should have come out free and not guilty. Wow, that's very, very interesting, right? I saw in the V'chevrus it brings something b'shem the Michtav Eliyahu. I don't remember exactly what. I haven't seen it well. Apparently, a tzaddik should daven that as long within limit, as long as it's possible, that somebody who's on trial should come out free. Which is interesting because it's a question. Maybe he's not free, and maybe he's really guilty, right? But as far as you're concerned, you should really ask Hashem that this Rotzech B'Shegeg should be non-guilty. And if you didn't ask for that and he came out guilty, it's also your fault. Wow, unbelievable, right? It's a very hard concept to understand. I saw an answer in this Sefer called Chavrusa. He says a very shticky thing. He says, I don't remember b'shem who. He says that the Kohen Gadol should have davened that, you know, if he's potter, let them know the truth that he's potter, right? Because you know sometimes, excuse the kfira, but it says many times in the Gemara, Beis Din is sometimes wrong. Maybe Beis Din sentenced Rotzech Shogeg is not really Rotzech B'Shogeg. Maybe it was Korv Loinus, and they were wrong, right? Maybe the Eidim were Eidei Sheker, and they bluffed Beis Din, right? That's first. And he should have davened, let's say, that the guy is really Rotzech B'Shogeg. So then, listen to this. He should have davened, all the Dayanim should realize the truth that he is Chayev Golus. What's the halacha if all 23 Dayanim say someone is Chayev? He's Potter. So that's very good. He should have davened that everyone should know the truth that he's Chayev, and then he should go free because everyone was Mechayevim. That's a very pilpuldik answer. But somehow the Kohen Gadol should have been more caring about thinking about the poor guy who's standing to sentence, well, it's just a shogeg, yeah? And if he didn't, that's why his death is now the story. Now, that doesn't contradict what you said before. In other words, if there was the same Kohen Gadol at the time of the Retzicha and at the time of the Mishpat, then there are two strikes against him. You should have davened that it shouldn't have happened at all. You should have davened and the axe shouldn't have hit him on the head and killed him. And you should have davened that if it was, that the guy shouldn't go to your miklat. You failed on both accounts. But the more important, but the more detrimental one is the second one of the not davening for him to go free. Amar Abaye, let's just continue a little bit out of time. Amar Abaye, Niktinan. Let's talk now about post-mortem. Amar Abaye, Niktinan. Niktinan means we know, we have it. We have a tradition from our fathers, Niktinan, we hold it in our hands. Nigmar Dinoi, the mace. Get that? Misken got a heart attack. He was sentenced at Yud Nisan, boom, he died. After the Gemar Din, he died. The Rotzech, not the Kohen. The Rotzech B'Shegeg was sentenced to your miklat. He died, started running, boom, chapped a heart attack, chapped a, I don't know, big stroke, he died. What do you do then? Molichines at smois of l'sham. Wow. You take his bones, meaning his dead body, and he's buried there. The Kohen Gadol is alive. Kohen Gadol is now alive. Kohen Gadol is not the focus right now. Kohen Gadol is the same one, alive, kicking, working. Now, the guy who was sentenced to go to a miklat never made it. He died. Then his dead body goes to the miklat, being buried in the miklat and not next to his family. Dichtiv, it says in the Torah, Lo shuv l'sheves ba'oretz he has to sit in the land. I mean, in the land, ad Moise Kohen, until the Kohen dies. The Ezehu Yeshiva Shiba Oretz. You know when people sit or actually lie down inside the land, in the earth. That's Kvura. When are people in the ground, underground? Kvura, when they're dead. So Ba'oretz literally means that if he's not alive, the Kitzur, the Ir Miklat wants you dead or alive, as they said in America, right? So the body goes to the Ir Miklat. Tana says the Braisa, Meis Choidim Shemes Kohen Gadol. Now that's a different story. Let's say the person made it to Ir Miklat. He lived in Ir Miklat for, 5 years, and then he died naturally in the Ir Miklat. Where is he buried? Clearly, we saw in the Mishnah, and later he's buried in the Ir Miklat. Nice. And then the Kohen Gadol died. Got that? The Kohen Gadol died 5 years or so after the death of Mr. Rotzeach. There's hope. There's hope. Just like the Kohen Gadol liberates him when he's alive, the Kohen Gadol, so to speak, liberates him when he's dead. And the dead body, which is probably already rotten, but doesn't matter, the Atzamos, once the Kohen Gadol dies, the Atzamos go back to the caver of his forefathers, of his family, wherever that is, Netanya, Nahariya, wherever they kill, Dichtiv, how do you know that's true? Yoshev Rotzeach el Eretz Achuzosoi. The Rotzeach should go back to the land of, how do you say in English, Achuzosoi? How do you say? Ancestral holdings. Ancestral Holdings sounds like some British company, right? Ancestral Holdings Ltd. So he goes back to the ancestral holdings. Which yeshiva is the place of his ancestor holding? Achuza, to hold. That's a good translation. Where is the place which is held by his forefathers? That's death. That's the basic kvaros. Because the only place you keep forever, hopefully, is a caver. To live in this world is very short, right? Achuza Savoisov, forever and ever, is a place of burial. Very good. Adkan. So Bekitzer, now we know that Rotzech B'Shogeg applies dead or alive, right? If he died, then before going to Ir Miklat, his body goes to Ir Miklat. And if he dies in Ir Miklat, then does his body goes back home to the ancestral burial plot? After the death of the Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol may liberate the person dead or alive. Very good. Now let's see another. Good. Now another case, another story, another question from Rabbi Tzvi. No. His death is not immediate kapara. Thank you, Tzvi. And the answer is, you see no. You see that no. You see that Tzvi is asking, is his death kapara? Apparently not. Most things death is kapara. That's a very, very perceptive thing. And here, the death of the Rotzeach B'Shoigeg is not his full kapara. You see that the full kapara will only arrive upon the death of the Kohen Gadol. That you're only sharpening the chiddush here. L'choira, yes, and echanami. We see people sometimes. I'll give you an example. Not exactly kapara. You see that people have unfinished businesses even after their death. And I'm not a voodoo magic guy. L'malshal Yavam. Yavam is not a punishment, right? It says, why does the Yavam have to marry his brother, Chalitza? Because his ruach is still mekashkeshes. As long as his wife, his almana, is unsettled and he has no children, he doesn't find menucha in Olam Haba. Something has to happen. Either she marries or Chalutza. Then the dead person in Shemayim comes to rest. So not everything finishes when a person is dead. Not even in Olam Hazeh terms, let alone Olam Haba. Okay. One had Zog the Gemara, listen to the following story. Nigmal Dinai. Okay, who's the Kohen Gadol when the time that he dies? The Kohen Gadol. No, excuse me. At the time of the sentence, there was a Kohen Gadol. Let's say his name was Baruch. He was a Kohen Gadol that was officiating while the Rotzeach was sentenced. V'nas Kohen ben Grusha ben Chalutza. Then, 5 days later, the Kohen Gadol became a ben Grusha ben Chalutza. How can a person become a ben Grusha? He was found out and was decided in Beis Din after many inquiries. Big, big scandalous news all over the world. Wow, that's the news of the day. Everyone talks about it day and night. You know that Kohen Gadol, the amazing tzaddik who serves Kohen Gadol, Beis Din just found out with Edios that his mother was a grusha. All the websites of Lashon Hara don't stop talking about it. Is the Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza? And this was decided by Beis Din. The Mr. Famous Choshev Rabbi Kohen Gadol is really a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, and he was that way since he was born. He was born that way, actually. He was already born Ben Grusha. She was Megarish before she gave birth to him. Obviously, she was married to a Kohen, and therefore, as a Chalal, he shouldn't be a Kohen, let alone Kohen Gadol. Wow. So now, what happens next? We're going to discuss many questions later, but let's now focus on one question. The one who really wants to know what's going on right now is our friend, the Rotzach B'Shogeg. You know who else wants to know? I'm here in the corner, Mr. Kohen Adam. Yeah, he also wants to know what's the halacha now that the Kohen Gadol was found out to not really be a Kohen Gadol, and he wasn't Kohen Gadol either at the time of the mishpat, at the time of the sentence. Pligi bar Rabbi Ami v'Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Machlekes between Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, they're both Amiroim. Please be aware of that. Chad omer meisa kehuna, v'chad omer botla kehuna, which means one of them says, we don't know who, one of them says the kehuna died. What does it mean? Although Beis Din decided there's Ben Grusha and it always was so, we say that since Beis Din only decided that it's the Ben Grusha in let's say Yud Gimel Nisan, after the sentence, from that point onwards, the kehuna died. The kehuna stops from then onwards. But retroactively, we do view him as Kohen Gadol. Therefore, since now, very good, at the time of the sentence, there was a functional Kohen Gadol. Aliba the emes, he wasn't, it doesn't matter. Since, as I told you, Beis Din's power is immense. Beis Din did not yet decide at the time of the sentence of the Rotzach B'Shogeg that the Kohen Gadol is bad. We thought he was good. We treat him as good. 5 days later, 3 days later, it was found out to be what? Not Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. It's as if the Kohen Gadol died. Kohen Gadol stops functioning because his crown is off his head, so to speak. The tzitz is off his head. So too, it's as if he died. So that's great news for who? For the Rotzach B'Shogeg. He didn't yet make it to Ir Miklat. Says Rashi, he doesn't have to go to Golus. Great. Just like if the Kohen Gadol dies before I made it to Ir Miklat, so too if the Kohen Gadol halachically died, he's not Kohen Gadol anymore, so too, I don't have to go to Ir Miklat. I'm going back to my wife and kids, having a cup of coffee, and having a nice time. Now, that's one opinion. The other opinion says, botla kehuna. The other opinion is just the other way around. No. Now we know retroactively that the Kohen Gadol never was a Kohen Gadol. And that's horrible news. Because if Mr. Baruch was not a Kohen Gadol, hey, there was no Kohen Gadol at all. What happens if there's no Kohen Gadol at all in the time of the sentence? He goes to a miklat, and as we say in Hebrew, forever and ever, because there's no Kohen Gadol. Was he a Kohen Gadol? No, it wasn't. It was Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. Don't pull the wool over my eyes. Don't tell me nonsense. I'm not saying nonsense, Chalila. The Gemara does yet. We know retroactively there was no Kohen Gadol. He was wearing the clothes, and he was up on the Mizbeach and says, hi, I'm a Kohen Gadol. You're not. And therefore, there was no Kohen Gadol in the times of the Mishpat. And therefore, if there's no Kohen Gadol, you, mister, go to a miklat and stay there until you die. Boom. That's a very extreme machlekes. Either he doesn't go at all, or he goes forever. Either the Kohen Gadol was there and he died, or retroactively the Kohen Gadol wasn't there. In one word, as we saw this sugya in many, many different shapes and forms keeps appearing throughout Shas. Do we or don't we believe in Lemafreya? We taught in Kiddushin many times and all over. When something happens, does it take effect from now onwards, or does it take effect Lemafreya retroactively? That's the Gadol in general, the story here. Now the Gemara says, okay, that's Machlokes Amoraim. Lema, let's try and connect this Machlokes to Machlokes Tanoim, which is not great. We're not happy when Amoraim have the same Machlokes as Tanoim. That's besides the point. Lema beplukta Rabbi Yoshua kamiflagi. Let us now assume, let's suggest that the Machlokes between the Amoraim over here, right, Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, is the same Machlokes between Rabbi Ezra and Rabbi Yoshua, which we saw in Kiddushin Samech Vav Amud Beis. The Tanan. The Machlokes goes as follows. Okay, a Kohen, Gadol or not Gadol, by the way, it doesn't make a difference. A Kohen is now in the middle of, doing a krov in the Mizbeach, going up to the Kevesh, He's throwing the Ivorim on the fire, okay? At that very happy moment, or unhappy moment actually, Beis Din decided upon Edus, the guy in the Mizbeach, is Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. Freeze right there. Rabbi Lezer Oimer, Kol Korbanos Shikri Psulin. Rabbi Lezer says, all the Korbanos he brought his entire life, retroactively, lemafrea, are possible, with all kinds of ramifications. We won't go to ramifications. Yeah, you brought a chattas yesterday? That chattas was brought by who? By Baruch. You had to bring a new chattas. It was possible, right? Bring a new chattas. V'chule v'chule. Rabbi Yoshua machshir. Rabbi Yoshua says, no. From now on, please step off the mizbeach. Yeah, but lemafrea, retroactively, all the previous korbanos are kosher. Seems to be the same machlekes. Mikano labo or lemafrea. Mandom Mesa Rabbi Yoshua. The one who says that the Kehuna Gdola died, just like death is from now on. When a person dies, he doesn't mean he was always dead. He lived until the age of 89 and a half, and from before that he lived. So to Mesa means it's not Lamafra, like Rabbi Yoshua. The one who says that the Kehuna Gdoilo or any Kehuna Botlo, Lamafra, there was no Kohen Gadol at the time of the sentence, that's a Kabbalah. In other words, it seems to be symmetrically the same chalekes with different communities, right? The Amoraim argue about whether the Kohen Gadol was or wasn't Lamafra regarding liberating the Rotzech B'Shoigeg. And the Tanoim in Kiddushin, which was just quoted, the Beis Din Yeshua, they have exactly the same argument regarding Avodah, right? The Korbanos he did yesterday and a week ago, 2 weeks ago, right? Same machloikas. Dog the Gemara, says the Gemara, no. According to Rabbi Lezer, right? Nobody argues, right? Of course. Again, according to Rabbi Lezer, there's no room to argue. Beseder, which means the one who says Mesa, yeah, the one who says only from now on clearly doesn't follow Rabbi Lezer. According to Rabbi Lezer, that's it. Yeah, Rabbi Lezer says that again, as we saw now, we see that all the korbanos are posel lemafrea. If he said that the korbanos are all posel lemafrea, he's not a kohen gadol for korbanos, so he's not a kohen gadol to liberate anybody either. Rabbi Lezer believes the whole thing goes lemafrea. Rabbi Lezer says it goes lemafrea, and both Amoraim would have to admit Enochinami, that lemafrea, that's it. He was never Kohen Gadol, therefore the Rotzech B'Shogeg should not go free. Ki pligia libed Rabbi Yoshua. According to Rabbi Yoshua, there's room to argue, which means if you have a flow chart here, listen to this. I wish it was a chart. Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yoshua, they have one machloikis. Rabbi Lezer is non-negotiable. Rabbi Lezer says lemafrea. Your Kohen Gadol apostle, I don't go to this game. We found out you're not a Kohen. Finished. For everything, korbanos, rotzech b'shogeg, truma, marriage, whatever. You're not a Kohen. Right from the start, we found out the truth about you since you're born. Let's go back to your cheder history. All the truma you ate, do tshuva. Yeah, good. Mashe'en ken Rabbi Yoshua in the flow chart. Within Rabbi Yoshua, boom, have two arrows going down from Rabbi Yoshua. In Rabbi Yoshua, there's a machloikas, meaning regarding avoida, Rabbi Yeshua says the avoida is only possible from now onwards and not lemafrea. Now there's a question not about avoida, but about rotzech b'shoigeg. Let's see how the Gemara says it. Ki pliga libed Rabbi Yeshua. Man domer meisa ki Rabbi Yeshua. The one who says that the kehuna died, meaning that from now on he's not a kohen, but at the time of the sentence he was a kohen. So very good. You don't have to go to a miklat. You had a kohen gadol at the time of the sentence, like Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says whatever was sentenced a kohen, it doesn't reflect on his history. Only mikano labo. Be positive from the point of disqualification onward. Great. So therefore, at the time of the sentence, right, there was a kohen gadol, and therefore I don't have to go to a miklat. Says Otzeach. Umando Omar Botlo. But now comes the question. The one who says that even according to Rabbi Yoshua, you say that the kehuna was cancelled retroactively. How could that be? Rabbi Yoshua says regarding avodah, all the avodas he did are kosher. So how can you say that? You get that? Someone says that according to Rabbi Yoshua, when it comes to avodah, all the previous avodas are good. When it comes to the rotzech b'shogeg, then enochinami, then he wasn't a kohen gadol. How could you say that? Says the Gemara like this. Ad kan lo kam Rabbi Yeshua hosam. Only regarding avodah, Rabbi Yeshua is an exception to the rule, which means Rabbi Yeshua really is not playing games. Rabbi Yeshua is exactly a trailblazer. He thinks that the Kohen Gadol, which was found out to be possible and mafreya, and therefore at the time of the Mishpat there was no Kohen Gadol, and you had to go to your miklat for life. What about the avoida? Avoida is exception to the rule. Why? Hosam dichsiv berech Hashem cheloi upol yodav tirtzeh. These are the words of Moshe Rabbeinu to Shevet Levi. Hashem should bless cheloi and Paul Yodov. Hashem should have rotza, and Hashem should accept with love the Paul Yodov, the maisim of the Levim. There's the word cheloi. What does chayil mean? Might, power, army. Chayil also, funnily enough, alludes to cholol. Ah, that's interesting. Says the Gemara, afilu chalolin shaboy, which means Rabbi Yeshua says no. Aval hocha afilu b'shua moide. Let's finish. Which means, says Rabbi Yeshua, says the Gemara like this. There are two ways to look at Rabbi Yeshua. Either Rabbi Yeshua is a diehard, completely against Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua says no. If he found out about a Kohen Gadol is a cholol, up until now the Chazaka, remember Kiddushin? Chazaka was the good Kohen. Up until the second, he was sentenced to be a cholol, a bad kohen. Up until then, I believe it's a good kohen, and he doesn't reflect on the past, the psak din. Therefore, all the korbanos were good, and also he was alive and functioning as a kohen gadol at the time of the sentence, and therefore, Mr. Rotzech B'Shogeg doesn't go to a miklat. Mashenk, the other bin, says no. Really, Rabbi Shimon and Beleza say the same. They both believe that conceptually, a kohen gadol which was found out to be a cholol, was found out to be a cholol. You're born cholol. Cholol is not something that can happen to you in the middle of your life. It's not, it's not something happens in the middle. Mashe'en ken, avoid is exception to the rule. The Torah was kind, and the Torah told us an exception to the rule. Paul Yodav Tirtzeh, even if the Kohen is the cholol, and we know he was the cholol, but the Eved, a Kohen who is the cholol, who worked and served the Nida Avoida, the avodah, the korbanos are kosher b'diavad. That's why. So he was a cholol all along, and he wasn't a real kohen. But a kohen cholol who worked in Beis Hamikdash and served and brought your chatas, okay, b'diavad it's okay. B'diavad it's fine because Baruch Hashem chelu pol yodav tirtzeh. Questions or comments are welcome now. 10:30 tomorrow. We're going to have a shiur with hardly ever any questions. Okay, but today. Enjoy the fun and ask me more questions. Thank you to everybody on Torah Anytime on YouTube, and thank you to all the choshev people